Hey, what's up everybody? In this video I want to talk about some things that I've learned more about socializing. Well, if you're new to this channel, my name is James and I do weekly videos on autism and ADHD. I like to talk about the different challenges we struggle with, why we struggle with these things, and coping strategies. If this sort of thing is interested, please like, subscribe, and share my videos if you find this helpful, as this will help other people too. Well, what is small talk? Well, small talk is polite, uncontroversial conversation topics that are often not deep, kind of shallow in nature, often taking place in social situations. Many people often say small talk is the type of conversations do when they first introduce each other and they talk about simple things like, hi, how are you doing? How's the weather? Where you work at? Things like that. However, what a lot of people don't realize, small talk also includes conversations that people may have during a whole course of an event, such as a social situation. Small talk may often not just include the beginning of a conversation, but a person can have an entire conversation beginning in the middle and end that can also consist of small talk too. For example, if you go to a large social gathering with a large diverse amount of people, or people that just want to relax and not talk about deep things, an entire social situation can consist almost entirely of small talk, such as a group of people simply just commenting on the food they're cooking, commenting on the pets that they may see at the house or the clothes that the people are wearing. As opposed to more deeper type of conversations where one or more people might talk about more deeper things such as music they like, may talk more deeply about sports, how they feel about a certain movie, or they might get more into politics or even philosophical type stuff, or a person might share a story. All right, one thing I've learned about socializing that is particular struggle with me personally, and that is some social situations are primarily small talk, and it isn't just small talk in the beginning of conversations, but certain social events is pretty much small talk during the whole course of the event, while other situations have more deeper conversations. I find a lot of social events, such as during holidays where there's a lot of people, there's a lot more small talk. And as an autistic ADHDer, I struggle with these things more than most people. Now, why do I struggle with small talk social situations more? Well, first off, notice I'm saying autism and ADHD. A lot of people think that autistic people are the ones that really struggle with socializing, but I also have ADHD, and I'm finding a huge factor when it comes to small talk actually has a lot to do with my ADHD. A lot of autistic people find small talk boring, and I find that to be the case too. This causes my ADHD to kick in and make small talk social situations even more tough. As an ADHDer, whatever I find boring, I struggle with focusing on that specific thing. So when I'm in a social situation where the majority of conversations is just all small talk, I have a much harder time feeling engaged, so that I constantly zone out. I constantly get distracted with other things such as my own interests, my own thoughts, or my cell phone, which, by the way, I try to keep my cell phone away during social situations so I don't get distracted for this very reason. But if I find when people talk about things that are boring, I have a much higher chance of missing the conversations because I zone out. And this makes socializing even harder because then I gotta backtrack. What is being said makes it even harder to follow conversations and engage on the social situations. So during small talk situations, I have to pay attention much harder than if it's deeper, more exciting conversations. It takes more work to be mentally focused, and it takes more mental energy and leads to a higher degree of exhaustion afterwards. While in contrast, if it's more deeper conversations, which I find more interesting, I'll naturally stay focused, so I don't have to put in as much effort to try to focus, try to pay attention, and this leaves me less exhausted and actually more rejuvenated. Regardless of what the social situation, whether it's deep conversations or small talk, I make it my top priority to try to follow along in conversations because my biggest motivating factor is to feel more connected. Okay, I talked about how small talk social situations can be hard with a person with ADHD, but I feel like I also want to talk about a little in detail with how it can be hard on just a pure autistic level too. Small talk can be hard on an autistic level in that it takes more multitasking. You have to think harder to think of what you say because you have to follow certain rules. It often involves looking around the surroundings. For example, a lot of small talk conversations often involve making comments on pets or the food they're cooking or something that someone's wearing. It takes more concentration and paying attention to your surroundings in order to reciprocate these or small talk sort of conversations. And this can be way more mentally taxing than talking about something that's more deeper, like talking about a movie or talking about something that you're really interested or talent or music or even politics or philosophical stuff. Small talk is, on the other hand, is like a constant dance where you got to really pay attention to every move, what's going on in the surroundings, and follow, respond, follow, respond. You have to really pay attention. Again, I'm not talking about this on an ADHD level, but like on an autistic level, you got to really pay attention to multiple things at the same time, which is hard when it comes to a person that struggles with multitasking. And then if you have slow processing speed, which is a common trait for autistic people, that can be even more hard. Then there's the sensory overload aspect when it comes to autism. Small talk is more sporadic. It's constantly changing, and it's constantly coming from all sorts of different people from all around the room. The more people, the more sporadic it gets. So yeah, not only this can be hard when it comes to the multitasking deficiency with autism, but sensory overload level, this can be really hard too. The whole nature of the small talk going all over the place, this whole dance is kind of chaotic. It's like you're listening to all these sounds going all over the place. And it doesn't really have this rhythmic pattern like deeper conversations do. It's just more crazy. And that can be tough with people that struggle with higher levels of sensitivity or sensory processing struggles or sensory overload. You have a higher chance of getting sensory overloaded. And this, of course, can also contribute to feeling exhausted afterwards and the need to unwind. Well, I want to talk about some tips on how to deal with small talk social situations where the majority of topics is all small talk. The first thing I've learned is it's okay if you don't always engage in all the small talk. When it comes down to it, everybody knows that everything that the people are talking about in this situation, this social event, really isn't that important. There is a little bit of respect that if you don't engage, that it's kind of understandable. So the best thing to do here is try to engage on what you can handle, but not anymore. Another thing that helps is not to try to look at a small talk social situation as a social situation where you need to keep up with conversation topics in order to feel like you're being appropriate, but more of a situation where you just observe things going on. If you look at this as a mindset of observing what's going on, you'll actually have an easier time getting involved more in the small talk if you feel you need to. For example, instead of trying to think of things to say in order to look like you're socializing, pay attention to what people are cooking, pay attention to the pets. Pay attention to what the pets are doing. If they do something funny, you'll then laugh, and then everybody else will laugh too. And you'll already be involved in the small talk situation then when people start commenting on the funny thing that the pet does. As opposed to if you're focusing so hard on thinking of things to say, you'll actually miss what's going on, and then you won't be able to participate on commenting on the things that are going on. Another thing you can do is get busy doing things that might be help to in the social situation. Like if there's a party, instead of trying to focus so much on the small talk, get busy trying to help out with maybe the cooking, help clean up the dishes. Or for example, if it's Christmas time and a kid has a gift that requires assembly and it's something that's up your alley, you can help maybe set this specific thing up. Like for example, if they have a projector, you can help set up the projector. Trying to use the time during those times to be a helpful person is a win-win. Not only you won't have to worry about looking awkward trying to think of things to say, but you're also being a helpful person. Another tip when it comes to small talk type social situations is to look for people who aren't socializing either, that are kind of sitting alone, and start talking to them and have more deeper conversations one-on-one. And trust me, during big social events, you will always find at least a couple other people that aren't really socializing in the small talk thing. Another tip I find helpful in small talk type social situations is to try not to socialize with the entire group of people and try to follow the conversation from the whole entire system of people, but instead try to find more one-on-one conversations with people. Try to find other people who aren't really talking or engaging in the small talk social situation that the other people are talking about, and then start talking to them one-on-one. When this happens, you can then have more deeper conversations. And with a bonus, you're talking one-on-one, which can make socializing much fun and easier than trying to small talk with a bunch of different people. What I'm basically saying here is try to find that one person where you can get more intimate in a conversation with, and then focus on just talking with that person. Then if the conversation ends with that person, like if they have to do something, then just try to find another person where you can talk one-on-one with. I find that is always helpful. The bottom line is, don't worry about it too much. Just have fun. Try to be polite when you can. When you need to take a break, take a break. Try to look for people that you can have conversations one-on-one with. And if that happens, do that. But the most important thing, be yourself, try not to mask, and have a good time. Well, I hope this video is helpful. If you like this video, you might also like the video, How to Start, Stop, and Continue Conversations on the link below.